And with us now to take a closer look at all of this, David Drucker, senior writer at The Dispatch and author of In Trump's Shadow, and Juanita Tolliver, host of Crooked Media's What a Day podcast and an MSNBC political analyst. So, Juanita, when Florida's 6-week ban takes effect, it will join many other southern states that have kind of instituted similar bans. This is a Biden campaign, and we were just hearing from Yasmin, is out with a new ad slamming Donald Trump over his attacks on reproductive rights. Is the fact that this is becoming a pattern in many southern states going to have a major impact, you think, come November?
Just as it did in 2022 and in 2023, as long as these attacks continue from the right, then abortion rights will be a mobilizing issue for Democrats. And what I think is interesting about the Florida situation is that not only is the 6-week abortion ban set to go into effect in a few weeks, but they have this ballot initiative that we know is going to need to see a 60% threshold to get the Constitution amendment. What's promising is that when we've seen other red states have this on the ballot, we know that Republicans, independents cross partisan lines to support protections for abortions. I think the interesting thread here that Democrats are clearly trying to needle is the fact that they're tying this to Donald Trump directly, so that if any of those Republicans or independents support the ballot initiative, then they would likely support President Biden. I think that's something that we're going to see a lot more from Democrats. But let's be real. Jose, Florida hasn't been in place since Obama won it in 2012, and I think we need to understand the context of the 3 media markets in the state. We need to understand the context of the fact that Republicans have an 800,000 newly registered voter advantage over Democrats. And so these are the factors that are absolutely going to play in November.
And I'm just thinking, Juanita, I mean, when you have those numbers that you just mentioned, there is a very real possibility, is there not, that these Republicans could essentially split ticket on in November, one way on abortion and then the other way in the presidential.
That's exactly right. And I think even if they do split that way, that's why Democrats are really trying to lay the fact that Florida took these steps at Trump and Republican speech, right? So in the ad, I think that came out earlier today, they used the audio of Trump saying, I overturned Roe. I'm proud of this. And I think that's why they're trying to limit those splits so that if you do support protections for abortion in the state constitution, you will hopefully also vote for President Biden, who in the advertisement said he trusts women in a way that Donald Trump does not.
And David, NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray says that the big question in Florida going forward is going to be which will be the greater political force come November, Republicans' political dominance in the state or the power of the abortion issue for Democrats. What do you think?
Well, look, in talking to Republican operatives who are focused on Florida, they've had trouble convincing people outside of the state to worry about the presidential race in that state, to worry about the U.S. Senate race in that state. Rick Scott's running for re-election. And so they've looked at the potential for this initiative to get on the ballot, and now it is, as something that could, number one, focus Republicans on Florida as a potential battleground, but also, give them some concerns that Florida may not be as safe in either of those races as it has been up until now. I still think that the Republican Party in Florida now has an institutional advantage and an infrastructure advantage because the state Democratic Party is weak. It's a big state, which requires massive investment to turn things around. It usually takes time to turn things around. And so I still think Republicans are in the driver's seat there. But I think that this initiative on the ballot is the sort of thing that may bring people to the polls that might not have bothered because they didn't think the presidential race was in play. And then again, there's always the possibility that they show up to vote for abortion rights, but for Donald Trump, or for abortion rights. But, hey, I'm going to leave the top of the ticket blank because I don't like either of these guys. And we're just going to have to see how this plays out over time.
And David, Donald Trump is expected to focus on immigration and crime today in that event in Michigan that Gabe Gutierrez was telling us about, and a rally in Wisconsin. These are states far away from the southern border. What is Trump's strategy here?
What he's trying to do is reprise what worked for him so well in the 2016 election. There is grave concern among many Americans about what's going on at the southern border. Not all of these Americans like Donald Trump. Not all of them are going to vote for Donald Trump. But if you look at the data in polling, the crisis at the border, at least that's how people look at it, as a crisis. Some of it because of illegal border crossings, some of it because people are coming across and then applying for asylum. There's a sense that things are out of control. And I've talked to Democratic operatives who believe that Joe Biden should use the executive authority at his disposal to try and tighten things up and bring things under control, because they're worried about a general backlash against immigration broadly, not just a backlash against illegal border crossings. And so Trump is trying to use this issue, and it's smart for him to do so because he doesn't have any coalition pressures when it comes to this, right? I mean, Joe Biden, the president, has to balance, different parts of his coalition when it comes to border enforcement. Donald Trump, on the Republican side, does not, and it worked well for him once before. He's hoping he can do the same again.
And Juanita, I'm just wondering, in all these conversations on either side, it's so easy to just go into numbers and stoke the fear in so many people. But the ethos of it, the men, women, and children that have made this extraordinarily difficult and dangerous journey to the United States with the dream of requesting asylum, it seems as though the humanity of this issue is forgotten. Is there any way to bring at least a little bit of that into the national discourse?
Oh, 100%, Jose. And I think that goes to the personal stories that Democrats will likely leverage on this issue. I think that also goes to the fact that President Biden and Democrats can point to Trump and Republicans for explicitly sinking the bipartisan border deal that was negotiated. Anytime Trump mentions immigration, it should be mentioned and questioned about his role in asking congressional Republicans to block it, to make this political fodder, than about the humans who need support and help at the border.
David Drucker and Juanita Tolliver, thank you both so much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.